Everyone lied to me. They said I was weak. They said my wolf never came because I was broken. But the night the Alpha King tried to execute me, his legendary sword shattered the moment it touched my skin. And that was only the beginning. The king saw what I was hiding. His enemies smelled it. And within hours, every rival alpha came to hunt me. They thought I was the weakness that would destroy the packs. They had no idea I was the power that created them. If you think this is just another werewolf story, you are wrong. Because before this ends, a king will fall to his knees. An ancient bloodline will awaken. And the girl they called weak will choose between revenge and salvation. Do not skip. The biggest twist of the year is hidden in what happens next. The blade came down with a scream of tearing wind and silver light. I smelled the sharp sting of molten iron before I felt the cold kiss of steel against my throat. Pine sap burned in the air around us, thick and sweet, mixing with a copper scent of blood soaking into frozen mud. The Alpha King's roar shook snow from the black branches above. His wolves circled in a tightening ring, their claws carving crescents into the earth, their breath steaming like smoke from open graves. I knelt in the clearing, wrists bound in iron chains that bit into my skin. The metal hissed where it touched me. He stood over me, crowned in bone and shadow, his golden eyes blazing with triumph. "You are nothing," he declared, his voice a crack of thunder across the forest. The sword of dominion glowed brighter in his grip. It was a weapon forged to kill monsters. Had ended wars. It had severed the heads of rival alphas. It had never failed. The tip pressed harder beneath my jaw. Pain flared, sharp and electric, racing down my spine. The wolves leaned closer, hungry for the spectacle. The Alpha King drove the sword down. Steel met my skin. The world exploded in light. A sound like shattering mountains tore through the clearing. The impact slammed into my chest, but it was not pain that spread through me. It was heat. Blinding, roaring, ancient heat. The sword cracked. A jagged line split the glowing blade from tip to hilt. The Alpha King froze. The wolves fell silent. Another crack echoed, louder than the first. The sword of dominion shattered into 1,000 burning shards. Fragments rained around us like deadly silver snow. One piece sliced across the Alpha King's cheek, drawing a thin line of blood. He stared at the broken hilt in his hand. His triumph curdled into disbelief. I lifted my head slowly. The chains around my wrists glowed red. The iron melted like wax beneath a torch. The freezing mud beneath my knees steamed and bubbled. I could feel something beneath my skin, shifting, stretching, awakening. The forest inhaled. The wind stopped. Even the distant howl of night creatures faded into silence. The Alpha King took one step back. His boots sank into the mud that was no longer frozen. "What are you?" he whispered. His voice no longer carried thunder. It carried fear. I rose to my feet. The last of the chains fell away in molten drops. They struck the ground and hissed like dying serpents. My heart pounded, but not with terror. It pounded with recognition. For years they had called me weak. The girl with thin bones. The girl whose wolf never answered the moon. The girl who did not shift when the others did. They had thrown stones. They had whispered curses. They had dragged me before the Alpha King to prove their loyalty. He had looked at me then with boredom. Now he looked at me as if I were the edge of a cliff crumbling beneath his feet. My skin began to glow from within. Not silver like the blade. Not gold like his eyes. It burned a deep crimson like embers buried beneath ash. Veins of light spread across my arms. They pulsed with each beat of my heart. The smell of pine vanished. The air filled instead with the scent of something older. Something wild and storm-soaked and ancient. The wolves whimpered. One dropped to its belly. Another turned and tried to flee into the trees. It did not make it far. The ground beneath it split open in a jagged line of fire. Flames burst upward without consuming a single leaf. The Alpha King's breathing quickened. His chest rose and fell like a hunted animal's. "You are no wolf," he said. His voice trembled. I felt the truth unfurl inside me like wings tearing free from bone. A memory that was not mine flooded my mind. Forests older than kingdoms. Moons larger and redder than any in the present sky. Creatures of fong and flame bowing before a figure made of living night. I felt power coil in my spine. Snapped outward. My back arched as something invisible burst from within me. The sound of snapping bones filled the clearing, but none of them were mine. The Alpha King dropped to one knee as if struck by an unseen force. His crown of bone cracked down the center. Blood trickled into his eyes. The wolves flattened themselves against the earth. Their submission was absolute. I stepped toward him. Each footfall left a glowing print in the mud. Steam curled around my ankles. "You said I was weak," I said. My voice did not echo like before. It vibrated through the soil and into the roots of every tree. He tried to stand. His muscles trembled. The power that once radiated from him flickered like a dying flame. "I have led this pack for 30 years, he growled. He tried to summon authority, but it rang hollow. Could see it now. The thin thread that connected him to the wolves. The fragile dominance built on fear and bloodshed. It looked like brittle glass. The power inside me surged. Not outward in chaos, but inward in control. The ground stopped shaking. The flames lowered into gentle waves. I reached out my hand. Not to strike. To reveal. The crimson light flared brighter. The Alpha King gasped. His golden eyes widened as reflection after reflection of ancient beasts flickered across my skin. He saw them. He saw what lived beneath my flesh. Not a wolf. Not a monster. Something that had existed before wolves learned to bow. His lips parted in horror. "The first blood," he breathed. The name trembled out of him like a confession. He understood. The stories told in whispers. The warning that one day the bloodline of the origin would rise again. Not to lead. Ijat. The last shard of the shattered sword at his feet melted into liquid silver. It flowed toward me instead of him. It circled my boots like a loyal hound. His authority broke in that moment more completely than his weapon. He lowered his head. Not in defiance. In surrender. The forest exhaled. The wind returned, gentle and cold against my burning skin. The scent of pine crept back into the air. I looked down at the Alpha King kneeling in the mud before the girl he had called weak. He had tried to execute me. He had tried to prove his power with a blade forged to kill legends. Instead, he had revealed one. I felt the ancient presence settle within me like a crown made of fire and shadow. The wolves lifted their heads slowly. Their eyes no longer reflected fear. They reflected recognition. I was not their prey. I was not their rival. I was the storm in their blood. The Alpha King raised his gaze once more. There was no pride left in it. "Leah, command us," he said. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. I looked at the shattered remains of his sword. I looked at the kneeling wolves. I looked at my glowing hands. I understood then that my weakness had been a cage. And the cage had just been destroyed. I did not answer him. I let the silence stretch like a blade drawn slowly across skin. The wolves remained bowed. The Alpha King still knelt before me in the mud that steamed around my glowing feet. The moon hung above us, pale and watchful. Could feel it now. Its pull no longer felt distant. It felt like a whisper brushing against my bones. Not commanding. Inviting. The ancient presence within me stirred. Restless but patient. I inhaled deeply. The scent of pine returned fully, sharp and clean. Beneath it lingered something else. Smoke. Not from the fire I had summoned. Not from melted iron. This scent was far away. Dry. Bitter. Carried on the edge of the northern wind. My eyes lifted toward the dark horizon beyond the trees. The Alpha King followed my gaze. His breath came slow and careful, as if afraid to disturb me. "You sense it," he said softly. I did not look at him. "Yes," I answered. The word rolled through the clearing like distant thunder. A tremor moved through the wolves. Fear did not cause it. Instinct did. The wind shifted again. The scent grew stronger. Cold iron. Rotting leaves crushed beneath marching feet. An army. Not ours. The Alpha King rose slowly from his knees. Mud clung to his black cloak. His cheeks still bled from the sword shard that had cut him. He did not wipe it away. "North Pack," he said. The name felt heavy. Led by Darius. The ancient presence within me stirred at that name. Not in recognition. In warning. The wolves began to rise from their bellies. Some glanced toward me before looking to their alpha. Confusion flickered in their eyes. Their loyalty had shifted in a single night. They did not yet understand how to stand. The Alpha King looked at me. His pride warred with necessity. "If they smell what happened here," he said, voice low, "they will not wait for dawn." Closed my eyes. I let my senses stretch outward beyond the trees. The forest felt alive beneath my awareness. Roots tangled deep in the earth. Streams moving like silver veins through stone. Small animals trembling in burrows. And far to the north, the vibration of many feet. Steady. Purposeful. Predatory. They were not hiding. They wanted to be heard. "They already know," I said. The Alpha King's jaw tightened. His fingers flexed at his sides as if reaching for a sword that no longer existed. "They have been waiting for weakness," he muttered. "They will not find it," I replied. He looked at me sharply. The glow beneath my skin had dimmed, but it had not vanished. It pulsed softly like embers beneath flesh. He studied me as if trying to measure a storm. "You do not understand Darius," he said. "He does not challenge. He eradicates." The ancient presence in me curled like a serpent disturbed. Eradicates. The word tasted foul. "I understand enough," I said. The wolves began to gather closer. Some shifted into human form, skin steaming in the cold air. Others remained wolves, fur bristling along their spines. Their eyes flickered between me and their alpha. The Alpha King lifted his voice. "All of you," he commanded. His tone regained a fraction of its old authority. "Prepare for defense." They hesitated, just for a breath. Their gazes drifted back to me. The shift was small, but it was undeniable. The Alpha King saw it. Pain flashed across his face. Not from the cut on his cheek. From something deeper. Leadership was slipping through his fingers like sand. I stepped forward. The mud no longer steamed with each step, but it parted slightly beneath my feet, as if unwilling to resist. "Prepare," I said quietly. The wolves moved instantly. There was no hesitation this time. No questioning glance. They scattered into the trees with disciplined urgency. The Alpha King's shoulders stiffened. He understood what had just happened. He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "You are not Alpha," he said. "No," I answered. "I am not." The wind gusted sharply through the clearing. Branches groaned overhead. The scent from the north grew stronger still. Darius was close enough now that I could almost taste the malice on the air. The Alpha King spoke again. "If you reveal yourself fully, every pack will come." His eyes searched mine. "Not to kneel. To destroy." I met his gaze steadily. "Then let them try." His lips thinned. "This is not pride speaking." I felt the ancient presence shift inside me. It was not pride. It was certainty. "They shattered your sword," he said. "They will not forgive that." I glanced at the broken silver shards scattered across the clearing. Most had melted into dull lumps embedded in mud. "They did not shatter it," I said. "It broke." The difference mattered. He seemed to understand. A howl split the night. Long, low, carried from the north. It was not a call of greeting. It was a declaration. Another howl answered. Then another. The forest seemed to recoil at the sound. The Alpha King's pack began to respond with their own howls. Defiant. Protective. The sound collided in the sky like clashing blades. My heart pounded steadily. Not with fear. With anticipation. The ancient presence pulsed faster. I could feel its awareness stretching outward like wings unfurling in darkness. Branches snapped in the distance. Leaves rustled violently. Then they emerged from the tree line. Dark shapes moving with fluid menace. The North Pack. Their fur was thicker. Their eyes colder. Scars marked many of them. They spread into a crescent formation. Disciplined. Silent. At their center walked a massive wolf with ash-gray fur streaked with black. He shifted mid-step. Bones cracked and lengthened. Fur receded into skin. A tall man stood where the wolf had been. His hair was silver despite his youthful face. His eyes were pale, almost colorless. This was Darius. He did not look at the Alpha King first. He looked at me. His nostrils flared slightly. The faint crimson glow beneath my skin flickered in response. The Alpha King stepped forward, placing himself slightly ahead of me. "You trespass," he called out. Darius smiled faintly. "I smell blood," he replied. His voice was smooth and cold. "Yours." The Alpha King's jaw tightened. "You will leave." Darius tilted his head. "Your sword," he said softly. "It no longer sings." A ripple moved through his pack. They had sensed it too. Plus, the shift in power. His gaze returned to me. "And this," he continued. "This scent." His eyes narrowed. "It is wrong." The wind swirled around us. My hair lifted from my shoulders. The ancient presence stirred in interest. Darius took one step forward. The ground did not part for him. It remained solid and unyielding. "You," he said directly to me. "Step forward." The Alpha King shifted protectively. I touched his arm lightly. He froze at the contact. Heat pulsed through my fingers. "I will," I said. I stepped out from behind him. The wolves around us tensed. The North Pack's formation tightened. Darius watched every movement with predatory focus. "You were not here before," he said. His voice lowered. "You are new." "I have always been here," I replied. He inhaled deeply. His expression changed. Confusion flickered across his features. Then fascination. Then something darker. "Impossible," he whispered. The ancient presence in me rose higher. Not violently. Slowly. Like a tide claiming the shore. Darius's eyes widened slightly. He took another step forward despite himself. "You carry something," he said. "It is not wolf." "No," I answered. "It is not." His pack shifted uneasily behind him. One growled softly. Darius silenced him with a glance. He was calculating. I could see it in the subtle tightening of his jaw. In the slight narrowing of his eyes. "You are the reason the sword broke," he said finally. The clearing seemed to hold its breath. The Alpha King did not deny it. I did not speak. Darius smiled again, but this time it did not reach his eyes. "Then you are either a weapon," he said softly, "or a threat." The ancient presence whispered through my veins. Both. I felt it clearly now. Not a single heartbeat of doubt. Darius spread his hands slightly. "I have come for weakness," he declared. "But I may have found something far more valuable." The word valuable struck like a blade. He did not intend alliance. He intended possession. The air grew colder. The smell of ash thickened. My pulse quickened. Not in fear. In readiness. The Alpha King's voice cut through the tension. "You will not touch her." Darius did not look at him. "That is not your decision anymore," he replied calmly. A low growl rolled through both packs. Claws scraped against frozen earth. Muscles coiled beneath fur. The first strike would ignite chaos. Darius's gaze locked onto mine. "Come willingly," he said softly. "And I will spare this pack." Silence fell like a blade poised to drop. The Alpha King's breathing turned ragged. Rage simmered in his eyes. The wolves behind me trembled between loyalty and terror. I stepped forward one more pace. The crimson glow beneath my skin intensified slightly. Darius's pupils dilated. "You smell it," I said quietly. His throat moved as he swallowed. "Yes," he admitted. "It calls." The ancient presence surged at that word. Did not call him. It warned him. I felt it clearly. A boundary drawn in blood older than his line. "If you take one more step," I said softly, "you will not return north." His smile faded completely. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his pale eyes. Behind him, his wolves shifted uneasily. The forest seemed to lean closer. Every tree, every root, waiting. Darius lifted his chin. "You threaten me." "I promise you," I replied. The wind exploded outward from me in a sudden burst. Leaves tore from branches. Snow spiraled violently into the air. The ground beneath my feet glowed faintly red. Darius staggered half a step back. Only half, but enough. His pack saw it. The Alpha King saw it. He saw it. The first crack in his certainty. The new conflict had begun. The first crack in his certainty. I saw it ripple through him like a fracture racing across ice. His shoulders remained squared. His chin stayed lifted. But his scent changed. The sharp confidence that had cut through the air moments ago dulled into something metallic and uncertain. His wolves sensed it instantly. Their formation wavered by a fraction. A fraction was enough. The forest leaned inward. Branches creaked as if listening. Snow slid from pine needles in soft, whispering cascades. The Alpha King stepped to my side. Not in front of me. Beside me. The movement was subtle. It was a choice. Darius noticed. His pale eyes flicked toward the Alpha King, then back to me. "You stand with her," Darius said quietly. The Alpha King's jaw tightened. "I stand with my pack." The words were deliberate, measured. Darius inhaled again, deeper this time. His chest expanded slowly. The air carried my scent to him fully now. Crimson heat. Ancient earth. A storm waiting beneath skin. His pupils thinned to narrow slits. "It is true," he murmured. "There is another bloodline." A murmur spread through his wolves. Low growls. Sharp breath. Fear masked as aggression. The word bloodline hung heavy between us. The ancient presence inside me stirred with slow awareness. It recognized the shift. Knowledge spreading like fire through dry grass. Darius took another step forward. The ground did not yield. It resisted him. He paused. His brow furrowed slightly. "You were hidden," he said. His voice carried accusation now. Hidden while packs slaughtered each other for dominance. "I did not choose to be hidden," I answered. My voice vibrated through the soil. The wolves on both sides flinched. He studied my face, searching for weakness, for doubt. He found neither. "Then who hid you?" he asked. Question lingered like smoke. Memory flickered through me. Years of silence. Years of being overlooked. Dismissed. Bruised by cruel hands. Ignored by the moon. No elder had shielded me. No guardian had whispered secrets in my ear. The hiding had not been a plan. It had been instinct. Something ancient waiting for the right fracture in the world. "No one," I said softly. Darius's eyes sharpened. "That is impossible." The wind shifted again. This time it carried more than ash. It carried other scents. Faint, distant, touching. My head turned slightly toward the eastern ridge. There were shapes there, barely visible between trees. Not North Pack. Not ours. Other wolves. Drawn by the scent of broken silver and rising power. Darius followed my gaze. He saw nothing at first. Then his nostrils flared. His expression darkened. "You have summoned them," he accused. "I summoned no one," I replied. The Alpha King's breath left him in a slow curse. "They smell opportunity," he muttered. "They always do." Darius's jaw flexed. His authority was being challenged before he had even claimed it. From the ridge came a low howl, different in tone from either pack present. "Hare, Harper, testing." Darius's wolves shifted restlessly. Some glanced over their shoulders. The forest no longer felt like neutral ground. Felt like a gathering storm. Darius raised his voice. "Show yourselves." Silence answered for several heartbeats. Then shadows detached from the trees. 5 wolves stepped into view along the ridge. Lean, guard, eyes bright with calculating hunger. They wore no insignia of allegiance. Rogues, but not leaderless. One shifted into human form. A woman with cropped dark hair and a long scar cutting across her mouth. Her gaze locked onto me instantly. She did not look at Darius. She did not look at the Alpha King. She looked at me as if I were the center of a map she had been seeking. "So it is true," she called down. Her voice carried easily across the clearing. Darius's lips thinned. "This does not concern you, Mara." So that was her name. Mara smiled faintly. "It concerns every pack," she replied. Her eyes flickered to the broken remains of silver embedded in mud. An alpha's sword shattered. She inhaled slowly. And something older woke. A tremor of unease rippled through both gathered packs. Information spread faster than claws could tear flesh. Darius stepped forward aggressively. "This is North Territory business." Mara laughed softly. The sound was dry as brittle leaves. "You are not yet in control of it," she said. Her gaze returned to me. "Are you?" Question was bait. Carefully placed. If I claimed control, I declared dominance. If I denied it, I appeared uncertain. The ancient presence within me observed silently. Did not urge aggression. It urged awareness. I stepped forward slowly. The mud cooled beneath my feet now. Steam faded into faint wisps. "You are here because you are curious," I said calmly. Mara's eyes narrowed with interest. "Curiosity keeps wolves alive," she answered. "It also gets them killed," Darius snapped. His patience was thinning. He did not like the shifting center of gravity. The ridge wolves descended gradually. Not charging. Not submissive. Deliberate. They stopped several yards away from Darius's flank. Close enough to signal challenge. Far enough to avoid immediate bloodshed. The Alpha King exhaled slowly. His hand hovered near where his sword used to rest. Habit without weapon. His eyes darted between Mara and Darius. He understood the danger clearly. This was no longer a simple trespass. It was revelation. And revelation shattered balance. Mara tilted her head toward me. "What are you called?" she asked. The question seemed simple. It was not. Names carried power. Identity shaped allegiance. For years I had been called weak, unworthy, burden. I inhaled slowly. The scent of pine grounded me. "My name is Ilara," I said. The sound settled across the clearing like a stone dropped into still water. Lara felt different now. Not fragile. Resonant. Darius repeated it softly. Testing it. Mara's lips curved slightly. "Ilara," she echoed. "Do you know what you are?" The ancient presence stirred more strongly. Images flickered behind my eyes. Crimson moons. Wolves bowing before a figure wreathed in flame. Blood sealing ancient pacts. "I am what survived," I answered. The words came without effort. Darius stiffened. Mara's expression sharpened with interest. "Survived what?" she pressed. "Extinction," I replied. A hush fell over the gathered wolves. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. Darius shook his head once. "No," he said firmly. "That line was erased centuries ago." "Not erased," Mara countered softly. "Buried." The Alpha King's eyes flicked toward me. There was awe there, and something like regret. Perhaps he saw the years he had overlooked me, the cruelty he had permitted. Darius's patience snapped. He lifted his hand sharply. His wolves tensed, ready to surge. "This ends now," he declared. His gaze pinned me. "You will come north." The command rippled outward. The forest answered with a low groan as branches shifted violently overhead. I felt the ancient presence expand within me. Not explosively, steadily, like a tide rising under a blood-red moon. "You do not command me," I said quietly. The ground trembled faintly beneath my words. Darius's wolves flinched. Mara's rogues exchanged glances. The Alpha King's breath caught. Darius stepped forward despite the warning in the earth. "I command every wolf who stands under this sky," he growled. His aura surged outward in a wave of dominance. Struck like a physical force. Several of my pack staggered backward. A few dropped to one knee. Even Mara's rogues grimaced. The pressure pressed against my chest. Cold. Demanding submission. The ancient presence rose to meet it. Heat surged through my veins. Not wild. Not uncontrolled. Focused. I did not step back. I did not bow. I took one slow step forward. The dominance wave fractured around me like water striking stone. A sharp crack echoed in the air. Darius's eyes widened. The pressure collapsed abruptly. Several wolves gasped as if freed from invisible chains. Darius staggered back one full step this time. He had not intended that. He stared at me with something dangerously close to alarm. "You push against me," he said, disbelief lacing his tone. "I exist," I answered. Mara laughed softly again. "That is a problem for you," she told Darius. He shot her a venomous glance. "This concerns lineage," he snapped. "It concerns survival," she corrected. Her eyes remained fixed on me. "Ilara," she said more softly, "if others hear of this, they will not come one by one." "I know," I replied. She studied my face, searching for fear. She found none. Darius's expression hardened into decision. "If every pack will come," he said coldly, "then I will ensure they find nothing." His meaning was clear. Eradication before revelation could spread. The Alpha King growled low in his throat. My pack bristled. Mara's rogues shifted subtly, tension coiling in their limbs. The clearing felt too small for the violence about to erupt. Darius lifted his hand again, this time not in command, in signal. His wolves lunged forward as one. Claws tore into earth. Snow exploded upward in white sprays. The first body collided with one of ours in a violent crash of fur and bone. The sound of snapping jaws filled the air. Blood sprayed across frozen ground, hot and metallic in scent. The Alpha King shifted instantly. His massive wolf form slammed into two north wolves at once. Mara's rogues darted sideways, engaging where openings appeared. Chaos ignited. I stood at the center for one suspended heartbeat. Watching, feeling. The ancient presence surged. It did not crave slaughter. Craved balance. Darius came for me directly. He shifted mid-stride. Bones cracked. Fur burst across his skin. His wolf form was enormous. Gray. Eyes pale and merciless. He leaped. Time seemed to slow. I smelled his breath before he reached me. Cold meat. Iron. Dominance. I did not shift. I did not step aside. I lifted my hand. Heat flared from my palm. Not flame. Pressure. Ancient and unyielding. His body struck the invisible force. A thunderous crack split the clearing. Darius was hurled sideways mid-air. He slammed into a pine trunk with bone-shaking force. The tree splintered down the center. Snow cascaded violently. He hit the ground hard. A stunned silence rippled outward for a fraction of a second. Then the battle resumed, fiercer than before. Darius struggled to rise. His wolf form wavered, then shifted back to human with a ragged snarl. Blood trickled from his temple. He stared at me as if seeing something that defied his understanding of the world. "You are not Wolf," he said hoarsely. "I never claimed to be," I replied. He rose slowly this time, caution replacing arrogance. Around us, wolves clashed in brutal close combat. Teeth sank into shoulders. Claws raked across flanks. The scent of blood thickened until it coated the back of my throat. Mara fought with precise efficiency. She moved like a blade through chaos. Not reckless. Intentional. Darius's gaze flicked briefly to his struggling wolves. He calculated again. The cost was rising faster than he had anticipated. He lunged once more. Not directly at me this time. He circled, searching for weakness. I felt his movement before I saw it. The ancient presence sharpened my awareness. Every shift of air. Every vibration of earth. He came low. West. A blur of muscle and fury. I turned with him. My hand met his chest mid-charge. Heat surged outward. Not explosive. Overwhelming. He froze as if encased in invisible stone. His breath halted. His eyes widened. I stepped closer. Close enough to see the faint tremor in his jaw. "If you continue," I said quietly, "you will force every pack to choose sides tonight." His lips peeled back from his teeth. "They already will," he hissed. Yes, I agreed. But you will not lead that war. The pressure tightened around him briefly. Not crushing. Warning. He gasped as I released it. He stumbled back several paces, sucking in air. Behind him, 2 of his wolves fell under combined assault from Mara and one of ours. The tide was shifting. Not decisively, but undeniably. Darius saw it. His chest rose and fell heavily. Rage burned in his pale eyes. But beneath it flickered something colder. Recognition. He could not win this tonight. Not without losing too much. He lifted his hand sharply. A signal to retreat. His wolves hesitated only a fraction before breaking away from combat. They withdrew in disciplined arcs, dragging wounded with them. Mara did not pursue far. She understood strategy. The Alpha King's wolf form stood bleeding but upright. Darius shifted back to human one final time at the edge of the clearing. His gaze locked onto mine. "This is not finished," he said. His voice carried promise. "I know," I answered. He turned without another word. His pack melted back into the forest shadows. Silence settled slowly, broken only by the labored breathing of the injured. The scent of blood lingered heavy and raw. Snow fell gently once more, as if attempting to cover the violence. Mara approached me cautiously. Her eyes studied me with sharp intensity. "You just changed the balance of every territory within 100 miles, she said quietly. "I did not ask for that," I replied. "It does not matter," she said. Her gaze flicked toward the north where Darius had vanished. "He will spread word." "Yes," I said. She tilted her head slightly. "And others will come." The Alpha King shifted back into human form, blood streaking his skin. He stood tall despite exhaustion. "They will test you," he said to me. "They will try to bind you. They will fail," Mara added softly. Her eyes gleamed. "Or they will die trying." The ancient presence within me settled into steady warmth. This was no longer about survival in silence. It was about revelation. About the end of hidden bloodlines. The forest felt different now. Charged. Where? Every pack would smell what happened here before dawn fully broke. The world had shifted. And it would not shift back. The dawn did not come gently. It bled across the horizon in streaks of red and molten gold. The forest smelled of iron and frost and the lingering echo of battle. Wolves moved silently through the clearing, tending to the wounded. Snow had fallen during the last hours of darkness, thin and fragile, unable to hide the scars carved into the earth. I stood at the center of it all. The crimson glow beneath my skin pulsed slowly, like a distant heartbeat beneath layers of flesh and bone. The Alpha King leaned against a shattered pine trunk. Blood soaked through the torn fabric at his side. One of Darius's wolves had struck deeper than it first appeared. He had refused to show weakness during the retreat. Now the cost revealed itself. His breath was shallow, measured, too measured. I stepped toward him. The scent of his blood hit me sharply. Fading. The ancient presence inside me stirred uneasily. Life was slipping. Not quickly, but steadily. "You should rest," I said softly. His golden eyes lifted to mine. There was no fear in them. only acceptance. I have led through worse, he replied. His voice lacked its usual thunder, carried fatigue. You have led long enough, I said. His jaw tightened slightly. Do not take my crown out of pity. I do not want your crown, I answered. Silence stretched between us. The wolves nearby pretended not to listen, but their ears were angled toward us. Their pack, their leader, their future. A howl echoed from the northern ridge. Not close, but not distant enough to ignore. Another answered from the west. Then another from deeper within the trees. Different tones, different packs. They were gathering. Not to mourn, not to negotiate. Test. The scent reached us first. Multiple territories, multiple alphas. Dominance thick and clashing in the wind. The Alpha King straightened despite the pain. They come sooner than expected, he muttered. They will not wait for invitations, I said. The ancient presence inside me grew warmer. Alert. Ready. The forest shifted uneasily as shadows began to emerge from every direction. Wolves stepped into the clearing in cautious arcs. Large, guard, powerful. Each pack marked by different patterns of fur and movement. At their front walked alphas in human form. Sharp, posture rigid. They had smelled the fracture in the world. And they had come to see if it could be claimed. Darius returned with them. His presence was colder now, more controlled. He stood slightly apart watching. Not leading this time. Observing. A tall woman with braided silver hair stepped forward from the eastern group. Her gaze was ancient and calculating. Which of you shattered the sword? She demanded. Her voice cut through the air like drawn steel. No one spoke. The Alpha King stepped forward despite the blood staining his side. I did, he lied. I felt it instantly. Choice. The weight of it. He was protecting me. The braided woman narrowed her eyes. The scent does not agree, she replied. Her gaze shifted slowly until it found me. Recognition flared in her expression. So it is true, she murmured. Another alpha stepped forward from the southern pack. His shoulders were broad. His face marked with old burn scars. You carry first blood, he said. The words rippled outward. Murmurs. Low growls. The clearing tightened with tension. The Alpha King moved slightly in front of me again. You will not touch her, he said firmly. His breath hitched at the end of the sentence. The braided woman studied him carefully. You are injured, she observed. It does not concern you, he answered. She smiled faintly. It concerns us all. Darius finally stepped forward. She broke the balance, he said. She is the imbalance. The ancient presence within me flared sharply at that accusation. Heat licked beneath my skin. The southern alpha lifted his chin. If she carries what we believe, then she must be bound. The word struck like a blade against bone. Bound. Controlled. Chained as I once had been. A murmur of agreement spread among several alphas. The forest seemed to recoil at the idea. The Alpha King growled low despite his weakening stance. You will go through me, he warned. The braided woman tilted her head. If necessary. Her wolves began to fan outward. Darius's pack mirrored the motion. The clearing filled with bodies and tension and the smell of imminent war. The Alpha King swayed slightly. I saw it. No one else did. The wound at his side darkened further. Blood seeped steadily. His strength was draining with every passing heartbeat. The ancient presence inside me whispered urgently, not of dominance, of preservation. This was not the war it wanted. This was not the moment for destruction. It was the moment for revelation. The Southern Alpha took one decisive step forward. "Stand aside," he ordered. The Alpha King did not move. His legs trembled faintly, but he stood. The braided woman raised her hand. Her wolves crouched low. The signal for coordinated attack. The air tightened. Every muscle coiled. The first lunge would ignite a massacre. I stepped forward, placing my hand gently against the Alpha King's back. He stiffened at the contact. Heat pulsed from my palm into his spine. He inhaled sharply. "Ilara," he warned. "Enough," I whispered. The ancient presence surged fully awake inside me. Not restrained. Not hidden. It rose like a sun breaking through a storm-black sky. Crimson light exploded outward from my skin. Not chaotic. Brilliant. Blinding. Wolves staggered backward with startled cries. Alphas shielded their eyes instinctively. The snow at my feet melted instantly into shimmering steam. The ground trembled violently beneath us. I stepped in front of the Alpha King, fully embracing what I had been denying. The first blood did not belong in shadows. It belonged in truth. My bones did not break. They expanded, shifted, reshaped, but not into a wolf. Into something greater. Fur of deep crimson flame cascaded over my shoulders. Not burning, glowing. My eyes blazed like twin suns in a darkened world. The air vibrated with power so ancient that even the trees bowed inward. Gasps echoed across the clearing. Not of hatred, of awe. I felt the Alpha King falter behind me. His heart beat weakly, fading. The wound at his side had deepened beyond natural healing. If I did not act, he would die. And his death would fracture this world beyond repair. The braided woman fell to one knee without realizing it. Her wolves followed instinctively. Darius remained standing, but barely. His jaw trembled. "This is impossible," he whispered. I turned slowly, placing one glowing hand over the Alpha King's wound. He tried to pull away. "You will reveal too much," he breathed. "I already have," I answered. Closed my eyes. The ancient presence flooded through my veins completely. Not as a weapon. As life. As origin. As the pulse that had once shaped wolfkind from the bones of the earth. Heat poured from my palm into his torn flesh. The scent of blood intensified for a heartbeat, then changed. The wound glowed red beneath my hand. Torn muscle knit together. Shattered tissue reformed. Bone sealed as if time itself reversed. He gasped sharply. His heart thundered stronger against my awareness. The bleeding stopped. The torn skin closed seamlessly. When I lifted my hand, there was no scar, only warmth. The Alpha King stared at me as if seeing a legend made flesh. Strength flooded back into his posture. His breathing steadied. The wolves around us fell fully to their knees. Every alpha, every rival, even Darius. The forest exhaled in relief, not because of fear, because balance had returned. I turned to face them all, crimson light still radiating from my form. I am not your enemy, I said. My voice rolled through the trees like ancient thunder. I am not your imbalance. The alphas remained bowed, silent, waiting. You have fought for dominance for generations, I continued. You have spilled blood to prove strength. The memory of shattered swords and broken bones lingered in the air. But strength is not survival. I looked at Darius directly. Preservation is. His pale eyes lifted slowly, not defiant. Change. You healed him, he said hoarsely. Yes, I replied. Because he chose to stand in front of me when he knew he would fall. The Alpha King lowered his head briefly, not in submission, in humility. I felt the ancient presence settle into something softer, something resolute. I will not rule you, I declared. A murmur rippled through the clearing. I will not bind you. The braided woman lifted her gaze cautiously. Then what are you? She asked quietly. I looked at the wolves, at the packs divided by pride and history and blood. I am your beginning, I said, and your reminder. The wind moved gently through crimson fur. The snow began to fall again, soft and peaceful. I am not here to conquer. I am here to end extinction. Silence followed. Sacred. The ancient presence within me dimmed gradually, folding back into my human form. The crimson light softened. My bones reshaped. My skin cooled. I stood once more as Elara. Not hidden. Not weak. Whole. The Alpha King stepped beside me. Live. Strong. He faced the gathered alphas. You witnessed it, he said firmly. Not domination. Salvation. One by one the alphas bowed their heads. Not to me as ruler, but to the truth revealed. Darius was the last to lower his gaze. When he did, it was slow, deliberate, acknowledging what could not be denied. The packs began to withdraw gradually, not in fear, in contemplation. The clearing emptied until only our wolves remained. Snow covered the scars of battle gently. The Alpha King turned to me. Emotion flickered openly in his golden eyes. You saved me, he said quietly. You stood for me when others would have chained you. I met his gaze steadily. You once stood in front of me knowing you would fall, I replied. That is leadership. His throat tightened visibly. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The forest breathed around us. Live. Balanced. No longer trembling on the edge of annihilation. I looked toward the horizon where dawn had fully risen. The sky burned with color. Red fading into gold. Gold into pale blue. A new beginning. The wolves began to howl. Not in challenge. Not in war. In unity. Their voices blended into one rising sound that carried through every valley and ridge. I felt tears sting the corners of my eyes. Not from sorrow. From release. For years I had been called weak. For years I had been hidden. But weakness had only been silence waiting for its moment. I turned to the Alpha King. To lead is not to dominate, I said softly. It is to protect what others cannot yet see. He nodded once, understanding fully. The wind carried the last of the night away. And as the sun rose higher, warming the frozen earth, I felt the ancient presence settle into peaceful watchfulness. Not gone. Not dormant. Simply part of me. I was no longer a secret buried beneath fear. I was the living proof that even shattered bloodlines could rise again. And as the wolves howled beneath the brightening sky, I whispered the truth that would echo long after my name became legend. Power is not the blade that breaks. It is the hand that chooses to heal.